Hi friends! So, andito ako ngayon sa JBR and we only have a month left bago kami tuloy na umalis sa Dubai and pumunta sa Canada. So, right now, I just want to make this time and i-share sa inyo yung story of how we made it happen. Let's start. So, when did we actually start applying or considering na pumunta sa Canada? Well, we started early January. Dun pa lang talaga kami nag-start to get the documents ready and maghanap ng school and mag-research kung ano ba yung mga dapat gawin. So, let's start from January. So, the first documents that you'll need from your school are 3 things. So, you need TOR, Transcript of Records, you need your diploma, from both high school and college, and you also need to get yung certificate na English yung medium of instruction when you were still studying in their institution. It's because hindi ako nag-IELTS, but if you have your IELTS, then you don't need this certificate. And make your research because not all schools are accepting this certificate. May mga schools na requirement talaga ang IELTS. But thankfully, since medyo limited yung time namin, buti na lang yung school na napili ko, okay na yung certificate. So, we're good to go. So, we took this full 1 month time para i-process yun kasi meron pang, I think, 2 to 3 weeks time bago i-send yun. And you don't need to have the physical copy. You don't need to have it attested. Kailangan mo lang ng scanned copy and that's what you have to submit. So, once I received all these documents, what I did was, kinompile ko siya in one PDF and sinama ko yung passport ko and then yung CV ko, and then itong documents from high school and college, and then yun yung sinend ko para mag-enroll dun sa institution na napili ko. So, that's step 1. So, second step is for you to actually look out for your school. So, from the time, diba, January to February, that was my time para mag-gather ng documents. While gathering the documents, we also did our research on the schools na magandang kuhanan ko ng course. Ano ba yung course na dapat kong i-take? Anong school yung dapat kong piliin? Sang place kami ng Canada mag-i-stay? So, we had several things to consider, and the reason why I chose Victoria is for so many things which I'll be mentioning on a separate video kasi we want to focus on the timeline and requirements. Let's go to February. February is yung start ng enrollment or yung pag-open ng slot para makapag-apply ka sa September or yung fall intake. So, that was February 15. Hindi ko malilimutan kasi we even took annual leave on that day kasi grabe yung intense daw. Bago ka makakuha ng slot dun sa school, kailangan paunahan. So, we don't want to miss that opportunity and we wanted to make sure na ready yung documents ko. Available kami like 12 midnight pa lang ng opening ng slot. Thank God kasi nakakuha kami ng slot on that day and na-secure ko yung seat ko. So, February 15, na-secure namin yung seat. So, now it's another waiting game. We have to wait for the LOA to be released. Most likely, depende kasi siya sa school. Iba-iba sila ng timeline. May mga schools that they release their LOA within the same month, while others actually take more than a month or even just 3 days. It depends eh. Iba-iba talaga. But for UVIC, I was already prepared to wait. Kasi alam ko na maraming gustong mag-apply dun. And I've heard through several Facebook groups na in most cases, matagal daw talaga sila mag-send ng LOA. What's happening to the camera? It's so weird. Wait. I'm gonna set it.
1 eternity later.
Okay, friends. We back. So, February 15 till March 15, I think, I'm not sure about the exact date, pero I'll be mentioning it sa summary nung timeline namin. But it was in March na naka-receive ako ng LOA from the school. And that was the only time that we proceeded with the next steps of the gathering of documents. Kasi may mga validity kasi ang documents natin like NBI Clearance, UAE Police Clearance, bank statement. Valid lang siya for a period of 3 months. So, ayoko namang i-prepare na siya from Feb. Tapos, paano kung mag-lodge ako ng March, April, May, ng June, or alam mo yun. So, parang I don't want to redo the process all over again. But to keep things ready, what we did was, while waiting for our LOA, for my LOA rather, nagpunta na kami sa consulate to get the blue form. Blue form is yung requirement to get an NBI clearance. And because it's my first time getting NBI clearance, wala pa akong record, so hindi ako pwedeng mag-apply ng renewal online. So, para maging sure na lang din kami, kahit si Louie may record na, we applied same time to get NBI clearance from the Philippine consulate, and we partnered dun sa parang, we asked help dun sa LBC. Meron silang counter right inside the consulate. It was best to have it done through LBC. Anyway, few dirhams lang naman yung difference. And the good thing with them was, kinuha nila yung form ko, and they just waited for our go signal to have it sent to the Philippines para initiate yung process. So we wanted to wait for the LOA. So when I had it last March, nag-message na din ako dun kay ate na nasa LBC counter, ka-WhatsApp ko siya, and I told her, ate, you can now proceed with the NBI processing. So even if we had the consulate appointment in February, so inintay pa niya yung release in March before niya pinush through yun. But be careful kasi 1 month validity lang din ata yung blue form. I don't know, I'm not quite sure about that. Pero just don't process it very early. At least i-process nyo siya within the month time na ina-expect nyo mai-initiate nyo yung process. So, that's next. NBI clearance. And then after we got the LOA in March, let's move to the next step. March and April. During March and April, ito yung very critical na period kasi you want to make sure that all your documents are ready, well prepared, and consistent. So, yung nakita namin yung mga checklist, I'll be sharing it with you guys then sa link or sa description nitong video na to para at least ma-review nyo. But the main things that we started right away was yung 3 major requirements. So, we wanted to have the bank certificate ready. We have the BDO branch dito sa DERA, but depende sa branch manager nung account mo sa Pilipinas. In our case, it was in Laguna, and yung Laguna branch, they didn't allow to have the request routed through the DERA or Dubai office or Dubai branch. Gusto nila directly with them. So we had to send them an email para sabihin na nagre-request kami for bank certificate and bank statement, ganyan ganito. That will take you about almost a month time, like 3 to 4 weeks time. So nung nakuha na namin yung LOA, yun yung inuna namin. Tapos sunod is yung NBI clearance, which I told you already, ginawa na namin siya prior. Pina-initiate lang namin as soon as nakuha namin yung LOA namin. And the third thing, which is the most critical, is yung SOP namin. So I had to make sure na nabasa ko siya paulit-ulit. I've shared it with closest friends and closest relatives to get their advice kung ano ba, clear ba yung way ko of writing it, and maayos ba, consistent ba, wala bang gap, wala bang misleading or anything. So, yun yung tatlong bagay na ginawa ko during March to April. And at the same time, of course, hindi naman mawala yung other documents such as yung mga forms, tapos yung mga passport, visa copies, travel stamps, what else? Yung medical, pre-medical also. I think it would be better kung gawin nyo siya prior to your submission. Honestly, sobrang bilis lang ng procedure. So, check lang nila yung urine mo, yung blood mo, and then they will have a physical assessment, and we also had an x-ray to see if you're medically fit, wala ka bang any concern sa health mo na kailangan maging aware yung IRCC. We got the result in less than a week time. Getting an appointment should be done prior kasi ang daming Pilipino na gustong mag-move. By the time I called, I think after 2 weeks time pa yung nakuha kong appointment. So, that was the last step. And then once we had everything ready, eto na. Fill up na ng form and sign up na. Oh, I forgot to mention prior. Oh my gosh, but ang ulyanin ko na talaga. Next time I do vlog, I need to write notes. Yeah. Learn from your mistakes, Joanna. So, we also had our GC key. Kasi dun sa GC key, dun mo makikita yung mga forms na kailangan mo fill upan. And Yung forms is very easy to do, hindi naman siya complicated, but it's very essential that you review it from time to time. Siguro mga 2 times mong balikan, 3 times. Kasi once na-lodge mo na siya, mahirap nang mag-amend. Although possible naman to submit a web form for any amendments, mahirap na rin magkaroon ng issue with consistency of your documents. So, April, we lodge our document, and then in May, we receive our sweetest yes. Na-approve kami in May, and then we had to wait for another month for our visa stamping. Finally, na-receive na namin yung passport namin with visa stamp in June. So that was the timeline. So if you are to sum it up, we just had a total of 6 months timeline journey para dito sa Canada experience or application namin. And it only took us 28 days from the time we lodge our document bago namin makuha yung approval.
A few inches later.
Backwards. So, what happens after you lodge your documents? So, yung susunod is makakakuha kayo ng biometrics coming from IRCC and asking you and your OWP to go to VFS and submit your biometrics. So, kukunin lang nila yung fingerprints mo. And then after that, waiting game. So, they will review your application, babasahin ng visa officer yon, and then you'll just have to wait. I know, sobrang hirap nito. Kasi, yung anxiety mo, hindi mo na alam kung ano yung sagot. Is it a yes or no? Then you see people getting their papers rejected. So, parang ikaw din, nag-worry ka na. But, it also builds your character. And also your faith. So, all throughout the 6 months of application, I really admire and I really am grateful for how God's grace has brought us through. Alam niyo yung parang it was God's little ways of assuring me na He's with me all throughout the process. He's with us all throughout the process. Na we're not doing it alone. He has His own simple ways of just making sure na there's nothing na hindi kakayanin if He's with us. And more than anything, our prayer was very consistent from the start that if hindi naman namin kasama si Lord in this journey, might as well wag niya na lang ituloy or wag niya nang i-approve. Kasi I don't want to be in that place kung hindi rin naman ako confident na kasama ko si Lord dun sa planong ginagawa ko. I have built my foundation in an assurance in God na kung kasama ko siya, even if it's a new country, even if I'm not sure of what's ahead of me, what's ahead of us, kung kasama namin si Lord, I'm sure God will provide, God will sustain. We just really want to thank God for being with us all throughout the journey. I think kung hindi talaga will ni Lord, I don't think na makukuha namin yung approval from the visa officer.
Every heart that is broken, and great are you, Lord. It's your grace